And this is Tami Bonnell. I think you can see it on my name. And I want to talk about conflict resolution and crisis management. But um, I'm going to frame this a little bit because this is so widespread. Everything from talking your teenager into doing something that you want them to do, employee relationships with employee-employer, salespeople with other salespeople, with other offices, in the middle of a transaction, as everybody knows this year with how wild things are going on, and then just add in a little pesky thing like COVID, and right away you feel like you might be a little bit unbalanced. So I'm going to do some broad spectrum things that are going to cover all of that. And I am going to be sending out some bullet points in a couple weeks. But if you have a pen and paper, just write down the things that are really important to you and that you really think are important and that you want to focus on. I'm the CEO of a company with more than 20,000 agents. So I run into conflict once or twice, and there's some things learned along the way, and then there's some things that have been taught along the way. So I'd like to kind of mix both of them in so that it's really human and it's really real. But I want you to have the big picture first. Obviously, since COVID was first started and we were sheltered in place, and by the way, I took the last flight out of Rochester, New York, leaving a Women's Council of Realtors event. And then all of a sudden, and it was Friday the 13th of March, and then all of a sudden sheltered in place as soon as I landed in Boston. It was a surreal time for absolutely everyone. And what's happened since then is that you've noticed that there are people that their elastics wound a little bit too tight. There are some people that are really overwhelmed. You know that there are some times when people that doesn't even seem like they're making sense right now because they seem so overwhelmed. Or we're very fortunate in the real estate business because business stayed really busy because people moved because of their circumstances. But then we ended up with the volatility of, multiple offers, and there can be turn into some us against them and some all sorts of crazy chaos that can go on. A stat just to have a picture, because you never know what's going on in someone's life and in someone's world. 48% of the population has said at least one person in their family has sought mental health help since being sheltered in place last March. That's half the population. And if that's the number that's saying that's true, it's probably bigger than that. So there are a lot of people out there with some anxiety. Stress comes from unfinished business, and stress comes from unfinished business, and anxiety comes from things that you feel like you're waiting for, right? You're catastrophizing. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, so that you're nervous about the future. And one of the best ways to handle conflict and to handle any type of crisis is to be in the present tense. So that's the first piece of the puzzle. Our strong leaders humanize and personalize everything so that they're present here and now and humanizing here and now, not thinking about the past, not thinking about anything that's going on in their world, thinking about what's going on in the world of the people that they're in front of and leading. And that could be leading a transaction, as simply as leading a transaction. Our livelihood literally depends on how well we communicate and how well we listen. And so I'm going to go through 10 steps, and I'm going to give you a bonus afterwards. But the first one is your mindset. With any issue, whether it's a crisis, a man-made crisis like the pandemic, a disaster like the fires and floods and hurricanes and tornadoes, all of the things that are going on around you, that some of them we have zero control over, but we have control over where we are. Mindset is 4 times as important as anything else. Checking yourself to make sure that you're okay, that you're grounded, that you actually stay grounded through whatever it is that you're going through as far as a conflict or a crisis goes. Because if you get too personally involved, it's not going to solve the problem, and you didn't separate yourself out as a leader, even if it's in the middle of a transaction. So your mindset, first thing is being prepared. You have more confidence, and more confidence comes from competence, and competence comes from literally knowing. 1 minute of preparation will save you 100 minutes of struggle. They'll save you 100 minutes of having somebody looking at you wrong because you weren't prepared, you didn't do your homework, you didn't do the things that were necessary. Preparation, without question, is key. Second is knowing exactly how you want this to go. How do you want this to go? Is this a transaction that there's an argument back and forth and we just want to get this property to a close? Is this somebody in the office that isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing? Is this an assistant of yours that's maybe not rising to the occasion? Whatever the circumstances are, you have to have in your mind exactly how you want this to go. What do you want the end game and the end result to be? Because everything needs to be leading in that direction of the end result, even if it's just calming everybody down because there's some new cases that are coming out, and keeping everybody grounded. Knowing what you want as an end result definitely matters. I've mentioned this to a few people in Women's Council before, but I do this all the time. But it's more important if you're going to go into a meeting with people that there is a conflict or there's anything that's going on that's in crisis. And that I do it every morning before I leave my house or hotel room or wherever I am. And that is literally take 120 seconds and close your eyes and visualize how you want something to go. How do you want this to go? How do you want people to feel? What do you want them to be thinking about? Really, what do you want the end game to be? Do you want the end game to be that there's a contract signed? Do you want the end game to be that we've come to an agreement and we've put into place in writing exactly what each side is going to do in order to make sure that this comes completely to a resolution? Did we just want to set up another appointment and get all the parties in the room? What is it that you want that end game? And picture it unbelievable. I'll tell you, I've been doing it for decades, and it actually comes out almost exactly how I picture it in my mind almost every single time. And a lot of that comes just from experiences, right? The more experience you have with it, the more that you're going to have it come down that line. And if you can hear by my tone of voice, that whole idea of keeping things conversational and staying grounded, these are usually circumstances. It's not usually personal to a person. And it could be something even historically in someone else's life that we have nothing to do with. So we don't really need to bring our emotion to the table right in the beginning. Visualize the outcome and really picture exactly how you want it to go. Write down as clearly as you possibly can so that you have that reminder in front of you. Number 2 is doing your homework. And there's 2 places you need to do homework. One is on the problem, right? Whatever that problem is. Something didn't go right in a transaction. We're on a stalemate in a transaction. You have multiple offers and you're trying to figure it all out. You have someone that you are thinking of letting go, someone that's not rising to the occasion. You have another outbreak and everybody's sheltered in place and agents are panicking. Whatever the circumstances are, you have to do homework in 2 places. One is on the problem. Do as much research as you possibly can. Preparation, remember, 1 minute of preparation, 100 minutes of stress you're going to relieve. And do your homework on the people that are involved in whatever's going on for this crisis. Do your homework on the people. I always recommend, Google them, friend them on Facebook, connect with them on LinkedIn. If you have anyone that knows this person that has some insight to really have a perspective on who they are, Crystal Knows is a great website for figuring out personality profiles. And there are 2 types of personality profiles, and I want to address it because I think that it's really important. There are 2 types. One side is task-oriented, the other side is people-oriented, right? So one is relationship and one is just about the details. And there are 2 sides to that too. So a D personality is task-oriented, but big picture thinker. Talks fast, moves fast, face is typically fairly straight. D personality, task-oriented, big picture. Wants to get stuff done. Picture CEOs, picture people that are in charge of things. That's usually where they are, and they just want the bullet points. Just give me the points. We don't even bother to finish getting our hair dried when we go get our hair done, right? Just give me the bullet points. The other side of that on the smaller scale is C personalities, and they're very detail oriented. They want every single detail. That's really important for them to do that in order to discover, but it's usually small details. Think of a bookkeeper, an accountant, small details. They like to they don't want anybody to miss out on one single opportunity. And by the way, all these personalities are necessary for this world to operate. There isn't a right one or a wrong one, but there is a right way or a wrong way to address these people. On the other side, relationship-wise, an I personality is off the chart, outgoing, typically really good at sales, right? Probably not quite as good with the details. And my description of an I is I was going to conquer the world, but then I saw something shiny. So they're really fast-paced, but it's all about the fun and the party and getting the sales done. But then we have this debris called paperwork. The other side of that is S personalities. They like safety, they like security, they want to make sure everybody's okay, smaller picture, slower paced. So all I want you to remember for them is, number one, Crystal knows if you have pictures of them through Facebook and everything else, it'll kind of show you a good guesstimate of what personality profile they are, so that you can kind of treat them and speak to them the way they want to be spoken to. And it only takes a minute. Honestly, it only takes a minute and you'll have a perspective. But two things until then: if you don't have a chance to do it, or you don't get the information, or you didn't have enough information on them to be able to do Crystal Knows or anything else, do face and pace. Typically, D's and C's have a much straighter face. I's and S's usually have a smile on their face. D's and I's, the faster paced, they're usually faster paced. They're wanting to get stuff done and they're talking faster and they're getting stuff done like this. Where C's and S's speak a little bit slower and they're a little bit more contemplative, and their movements aren't as physically out there, so that you at least have a picture in your mind. Because if I'm going to talk to an S personality, probably their biggest concern is that they're going to be safe, their home's going to be okay, or that they're not going to lose their job, right? So my conversation with them needs to be in that direction, so that I'm making sure that they're calm and that I know what I want the end game to be, and that I'm speaking to them more aspirationally than anything else. But doing your homework on both sides of that equation is incredibly important. So when I'm doing my homework on people, I want you to do this exercise for yourself. Just write a couple bullet points down for me. And that is, when you focus on people, how well do you know the people that you have as your most major clients? How well do you know your agents? How well do you know the people on your team? And I mean their personal life, their goals, their dreams. There's a great book. It's called The Dream Manager. If you haven't read it, it'll help you with helping so many people, not just clients and people on your team and people in your office, but it'll help you with so many people, because it's going through a vision of someone's dreams and actually painting them into some possibilities that they never dreamt of before. But literally look, how well do you know them? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, anybody that you're in a conflict with, any conflict you have going on, any crisis you have going on, really rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Where am I in this relationship? Is this relationship a 5? By the way, it's a great idea to do with your closest friends, do with your family members, because if I'm happy at home, I'm going to be better at work. If I'm better at work, I'm going to be happier at home. It all works full circle. It's that holistic approach of dealing with the entire person. So how well do I know these people? Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Do I have a 5 relationship with this person? Then my goal right now is to get it to a 6, and then to a 7, and then to an 8. I can't go from a 5 to 10. I have to do some more details. What do I need to do in order to get this a little bit closer, a little bit better of a relationship? If I know what's going on with someone and I know what's going on in their lives, can I soften that problem a whole lot quicker? I had a conflict to resolve earlier today, and the conflict that I had earlier today, I did my homework, and I did my homework on the person as a whole and their family, and and they were acting not as rational as they should have under the circumstances, pretty over the top. But then when I looked around them, I realized that their significant other owned a small business that was about to tank, and that they were homeschooling 3 children. Are those good things for me to know before their elastics wound too tight and you're having a conversation with them? The more you know about them and the better your relationship is, the better off you're going to be. So focus on really rating yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Where am I with all of these relationships? And what do I need to do a little bit differently? Number 3, there's a thing that is called fight or flight. And this doesn't work in all circumstances, but it works in a lot of circumstances. So I really want you to think about it. And it is, sometimes you have a transaction and everything's blowing up and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and your heart's going a million miles an hour and you just want it solved, and you're caught up in it, and everybody's caught up in it. But in that first 6 hours, when there's something major going on, it could be major in a transaction, it could be major in the office. When something major is going on in those first 6 hours, everybody's in fight or flight syndrome. They're not really rational. They're angry, they're upset, they're, oh my gosh, everything's going to end. I'm going to lose my income. You know, everything goes a little bit haywire. The most important thing for you to do is set a time to talk. I highly recommend the majority of times. There are times when you have to handle something right away, but the majority of the times, give them 24 hours. So look, I want to set up a time with us. And obviously right now with COVID circumstances, we're doing a lot of things virtually, right? I want to set up a time on FaceTime. I want to set up a time on Zoom. If you can see people's faces, much better off to see people's faces. We'd like to skip email and text as much as humanly possible because they can be misinterpreted so easily, although I'll address a few things about that too. Ask everyone that's involved. Maybe there's 4 people involved and maybe there's only you and this other person, but ask everyone involved to come to the table with solutions. So I set a time to talk. I want everybody to come to the table with solutions and with an open mind. When it's appropriate, set ground rules. So when I'm working on a conflict management and there are a couple of offices that are going one-to-one, right? If I'm working with a couple of offices and they're up against each other because there's something that's fighting a couple offices together, or even maybe 2 people in the same office, when there's a conflict that's going on and they're starting to really take it personal and they're really starting to do that personal attack, first, my job is to separate myself from, I'm outside of this circumstance. I'm just here to be part of the solution. But we need to make sure that we set some ground rules. We're here to find solutions and we don't want to set any personal attacks. So I'm going to set some ground rules. Everybody's going to have a chance to speak their mind. Everyone has a voice. Everyone deserves to be heard. And then we're going to work on whether we find a solution right now or we work towards a solution. The first reason I do 24 hours is literally most of the time when they think about it and they sleep on it overnight, they come to a solution together and they grew as people and they didn't even have to come to me. Literally 70% of the time, that's what happens. The times when it does happen, they're usually a little bit calmer than they were the day before. And a lot of times they do come with partial solutions. And then the other person realizes, oh, we're all just human and we're all just trying to make a life or make a living. And so setting those ground rules, also recognize people's effort, right? How much effort they've put into this and that you really appreciate that. And remind them of the importance of the mission. If they're in your office, in your business, you want to remind them of the importance of the mission. If you are all together and you're, we have a mission statement as a company, we have a focus on what it is that we really want to accomplish. And we're my company specifically built on human potential and the human behind that transaction. And so we make sure that we remind people of that mission so they really feel like they're part of something bigger and part of something better. And they also can picture that end game. They don't want to interfere in that end game. They want to be part of that. They want to be part of that solution. They want to be, and share with them what it is that you're trying to accomplish as a whole, and make sure that it's clear, that everybody understands what you're trying to accomplish. And if they have anything that they're not in the same agreement with, that you're having a conversation about that too, right? So that's number 3. Number 4, everyone wants to be heard. I have heard so many times, and I can tell you for sure especially through COVID, because we witnessed a lot of people laying people off in droves and not having a personal conversation with them, right? They did it through Zoom without seeing somebody's face, or they did it through a group email or a group phone call that nobody could see anybody's faces. Those people, even if they got a solution or a resolution that they wanted, if they didn't get heard, that's the first thing that you're going to hear from them. It's going to be much more about how people feel afterwards that's going to matter. Everybody wants to be heard. And even if the solution came out right, if they feel like they weren't heard, there's going to be still some unfinished business. And you don't want to lose that person a couple months from now because they didn't have that opportunity to be able to be heard. So how they feel afterwards really matters. Even checking in afterwards, even checking in before you leave there to say, does everybody feel like everything's addressed? But remember what I said about getting to know people? When you get to know people, and you get to find out what their dreams are and what's really important to them, and you can remind them of that, they will want this to come to a good solution too. They will want it to come to a good solution because they're in a position, because you've gotten to know them so well, that they feel enough trust to actually share what's going on. So often people leave feeling empty because they didn't have any solutions, and it's because we didn't get to know them. And we can certainly blame technology for a lot of that. A lot of times it's really easy to send a quick email instead of picking up the phone and saying, how you doing? How you holding up? I just wanted to check on you. But we really do need to make sure that we make time for that, especially for the most important people that are in our business, in our family, in our business community that we work around. I find that words and phrases matter too, how we talk to people and what it is that we say. And I'll give you a few references towards the end that you can read, and there'll be things that are pertinent to you in your specific arena that I believe will definitely help. So words and phrases that work. I'm going to tell you the words first. Concern. I never go through and say that this is a crisis, this is a conflict, this is huge, or any of that sort of stuff. It always goes back to a concern. We want to address everyone's concerns today. It's a softer word. It doesn't get everybody's back up. I always talk about collaboration. Tomorrow we're going to have a meeting and we're all going to collaborate so that we can work together towards solutions. Nobody knows collaboration better than the Women's Council of Realtors, of everybody collaborating together as a team to make things better, right? But we're all going to collaborate, or we're going to brainstorm, or we're going to come to the table and focus on what we can do for a solution. But if we stay in that lane, utilizing those words, things will go much better for us. When you are having conversations, and I want to say a couple of things from phrases, but when you get to know people and you can say to them, and they know it's true because you've gotten to know them, look, I care about you and the success of our mission enough for us to have this conversation. I care about you enough. I love you enough. I value you enough. They're going to remember that. I value you as a human being. I think this is so important. You are so important to me that I really feel like I should share this conversation. There are going to be times when people are going to grow just leaps and bounds because you cared enough. Maybe they're doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Maybe they're drinking too much. Maybe there's something going on in their world. And now that I care about you enough, you're going to help them get to a solution, and they're going to want to follow you. And respect is so important in this. If they believe that you've taken the time to get to know them, and you celebrated their successes along the way by finding out what's really important to them and sharing it back and forth, you are going to really make things different. And it's always what we're trying to accomplish as a whole. More words that work and phrases that work. Help me understand. Sometimes we don't know where they're coming from, and there's something a lot more going on than what we know about. Maybe it's even something that happened at home that has nothing to do with what's going on right here, right? Or maybe it has to do with outside crisis. Everybody handles fear differently. Everybody handles worry differently. Everybody handles the stuff that's going on in their life. So a couple phrases: help me understand, paint the picture for me, tell me more, I care enough about you to have this solution. I always say, if you could wave a magic wand, perfect world, paint the picture for me. How does this story go? Where do you want this story to go? And if they're comfortable with you, they are going to have those conversations, and you are going to get so much closer when you pull together. It's going to be unbelievable. Number 6, your tone of voice. When you're speaking to people, it needs to be conversational. If my elastic's wound too tight and I sound like I'm stressed, I'm not going to bring anything to the table. I'm not going to help anybody with anything. I'm just going to be freaking out, right? And they can tell by your body language. They can tell by the way that your behavior is. I know that if I'm stressed, I talk faster. And I already talk fast enough. I'm from Boston, but I talk faster. And then people can see that. So you need to take a couple of deep breaths and go back. Before you go into any type of conversation. You know, I talked about the 120 seconds, but maybe that's earlier in the day. If you have to do it again, do it again. Or if you just have to take a few deep breaths before you walk in so that you are grounded, picture the end game, picture how you want it to go. Keep your tone conversational, keep it separate from the issue at hand. I understand that you have concerns, and we're here to find solutions for those concerns, but everything is in that tone. People have a tough time staying escalated when you're in this calm tone. Don't get so calm that it doesn't seem like you care or that it seems like you're just a little too zen for the real world. But definitely keep your tone conversational. And number 7, and this is really hard for everybody because it's probably one of the most difficult things that we do, and that's listen. Actively listen. Absolutely no multitasking. Be present. Listen to understand, not to listen to see what I'm going to say next. Really, really actively listening. If I could tell you that the biggest skill set, one of the biggest skill sets, probably in the top 5 for any leader, is to be able to actively listen and to listen to understand that other person's perspective, that other person's point of view. And by the way, all these point of views are wonderful. And I am not going to go through the split world that we're in right now or address any of that. But I will tell you, the more diverse the group is, the more variety of opinions and the more open-minded everybody is going to be, right? That's why Goldman Sachs won't invest in a company that there aren't at least 2 women sitting on the board. And it's not because they want to be altruistic. It's because those companies make more money. And it's not just because we're women, most of us. I know there's men on here too, but it's because of the variety that's there. And so everybody wants to have a voice. Don't equate your own experience with theirs, because it's not about you right now, it's about them. And so often we want to jump in, and it's really to form a bond and to make a connection, but it's not working. Oh, I have a sister that did the same thing. Oh, let them really be heard, listening to exactly what's going on in their world. If you want to connect with them later on, when it's not at this point, and share with them that lots of people have gone through lots of circumstances, it might even make you closer because you've had a similar experience, but not while they're in this frame of mind. And I want you to really think about this for a statement. No one has ever listened their way out of a job or a sale. We've talked our ways out of a job or a sale. We've gotten too carried away in one direction or the not and spoken our way out of a commission, spoken our way out of an office, but we have not listened our way out. So that active listening is incredibly important. And really listen to understand, not to reply, and make sure that you have extreme empathy for the people that are in front of you. I want to make sure I don't miss anything on listening. When you listen without interrupting and you ask some thoughtful, open-ended questions, truly just to better understand where their mindset's at and where their point of view is, make eye contact. In the old days, they used to say, follow their body language and all that sort of stuff. People know that stuff. There's too many things on YouTube and everywhere else. People know it. In fact, people know you're listening if you're listening. They don't need all the other signs that are out there. They really don't. But some good eye contact is a good idea so that you're paying attention. But people really do truly know if you're listening. Try and keep your attitude as positive as humanly possible. Do not let if you're in a negative frame of mind, you've got to do everything in your power, whether it's deep breaths or thinking of a happy thought, anything that's going to put a smile on your face. I had a conflict this morning. What I thought of? My granddaughter put together, we had snow where we are, and we built this huge fort wall of snow, a snow wall, a castle, so we could have a snowball fight. But during the night, when I didn't know it, she put together an entire bucket full of 150 snowballs so she could be like Elf and be ahead of it while I was still making snowballs. And that's the first thing I thought of and what I kept in my mind while I was handling this conflict. And you know what? It ended positive. If we were face to face, it would have been a hug. And it was all because of that headspace was a good headspace to be in. So think of things that are going to be in that right mind frame. Number 8, look at technology as part of your team, never a replacement for you. We have a vice president of technology and engagement. Some of you got to see Annette yesterday, and it's all in absolutely being able to connect more, being able to build a relationship with these people better and keep track of what's going on. So I have all the information with me. I have a paper trail. I have what's going on, but it is not to replace me. If you face-to-face will work whenever possible, it's never going to be a replacement for you. If you're negotiating for something, face-to-face, Zoom, FaceTime, when you send it in an email or a text, it can be totally misinterpreted. I was speaking to a guy earlier today, and he was talking to a young man that's only been in real estate for a couple of years. And he said, do your homework on the seller. There were 7 offers going in on the same property. And this young man is in the age range of all of his friends buying homes, all first-time home buyers that are all in that same position, right? Everything's being offered over asking price, no inspections, blah, blah, blah. You all get the drill. And he said, do homework on the person. He did homework on the person, and he wrote a cover letter. Both him and his wife went to the same school as the 2 owners of the property. They were third in line for everything they would fit in, and they got the house. And I'm not saying that's going to work all the time, but there's a lot of times when just that extra human element, that extra common bond makes a huge difference. And it doesn't take very long to look up people and find out what's really important to them. When you can Google them, friend them on Facebook, connect with them on LinkedIn, find out something. Maybe you went to the same school. Maybe you're fans of the same sports team. Maybe you're both in martial arts. It doesn't matter what it is. Maybe you both tried stand-up comedy. Who knows what it is? But those common grounds really do matter. Don't use technology as a wedge. I see a lot of people use it because they think it's going to keep a distance. And yeah, it is going to keep a distance and you're not going to win. And that's going to really make an issue. Number 9, know what's non-negotiable. I always shoot for a win-win, right? That you can have a win-lose, a lose-lose, or a win-win, right? Or a flat-out draw. But when there's a win-win, when I can win on some, even if I'm just winning on one small piece of the equation, I get to walk away with some dignity. So always try for that. But at the very least, look at it as a growth opportunity, because there are so many times that as a leader, we really need to help people to grow. And it's in their best interest that we help them to grow. And it is much more important as a leader, especially if you own a brokerage, you're in charge of a team, you're in charge of a conflict that's going on right now, that leadership is it's so important to be more respected than liked. All of us want to be liked. I want everybody in the world to like me, but it's much more important to be respected because you've done what you were supposed to be doing, and you've handled it the way you should handle it. So it's not about being right. It's about being successful. I don't have to prove I'm right. I don't have to participate in every fight I get invited to. It's really deciding and prioritizing where that is. Number 10, and I promise I'm going to go into a bonus for you, but number 10, tough conversations actually strengthen relationships when they're done right. Remember what it goes back to? I care enough about you to have that conversation. It builds better leaders and it earns respect. I'm going to share with you a personal story. And our founder and chairman, about 20 years ago, literally 19 years ago, I was speaking and I was responsible for the production, selling regions, getting everybody to produce, selling franchises. And I broke 4 world records in sales that year. And I sold out 50% of the population of the rights to the United States by population in 1 calendar year. And it had never been done before. And I was feeling pretty good about myself. And he called me into his office on a Friday night and talked to me about speaking. And he said, you probably know more than anybody in regard to how to operate this business and how to franchise. But when you stand in front of people and speak, you sound like a professor. And no one is going to listen to a professor. They're going to listen to somebody that's more personable. I think I shut him off after that point. No, he had a lot of good points that he had to say, but I was furious. I was thinking he was going to call me in feeling pretty good about myself because of everything that got accomplished. And he didn't mention a single word about that. He really had in his mind to talk to me about becoming a better speaker. And that was really important to the company's mission. And that was really important to me to grow as a person. And he made sure he delivered that. But I actually left a little ticked off. Probably a little more than a little. In fact, I actually had bruises on my hands from holding on to the seat in the plane on my flight home. And I got home and I slept on it. And I woke up the next day and said, all right, if I need to get better, how do I get better? And I watched every presidential speech that I admired. I read books about speaking. I watched CDs about speaking. And 1 year, almost exactly to the day of him having that conversation with me, I got offered $10,000 to speak for an hour. And what it showed me is that when somebody cares enough about you to get a little bit uncomfortable, you think about people right now and write their names down of people that you see potential in them, you see something in them that they could do, not that's out of your range, that may not be your business, right? But if you see potential in someone and you can really say, I care enough about you to have this conversation. If you do this, you can get to here. And if you do this, you're only going to get to here. Whatever that is, when you can honestly have that conversation and not in an unkind way, you will be amazed at how much you grew. I thought that I respected him a lot. I never respected him more until after that happened and realizing that was 100% in my best interest and that I actually needed to even go and apologize and say you were right and wow, have I got a lot to learn. Every one of us should be a work in progress our entire lives. We should be working on all the things that we can accomplish. And when we can actually pull other people along, man, what a difference. And I know that it's really easy to feel fear, especially if you haven't been doing this very often. But remember to yourself, it's just a conversation. And if I frame it right in the beginning, I'm going to make sure that everything works. So here's the bonus. Immediately afterwards, immediately after you go through this conflict resolution, immediately after you deal with this crisis, you want to ask yourself, ask what worked, what would you do different, what can I do now so it doesn't happen again in the future? Maybe that's something that you have a process in place that got overlooked, or that got overlapped. What can I do about this so it doesn't happen in the future? And what did everyone learn? Especially you. What did I learn from this experience that I can take into the next thing, that maybe even over dinner tonight, I can share with my kids and have a conversation. And since it's not about me and it's not specifically about them, they're going to pick up more than they would if I was talking directly to them. What did I learn from this experience that I can take with me? Honestly, if you do that all the time, your whole world will appear different. Remember, fear is a feeling, not a fact. So it's important for every one of us to own it. Own the day, own the wins, but more than anything, own the mistakes. People will appreciate you so much when you can say, I've made a mistake, or I'm sorry, and you will do more business than ever with people that actually tried to rectify a situation, that tried to make a situation better. That doesn't mean be weak and allow somebody to run over you in order for something to happen. There's times when you really have to stand your ground, whether it's a matter of principle, or you just believe in it so strongly and it's the right thing to do. And that's always the last and most important question to ask. What's the right thing to do, right? Under these circumstances, what's the right thing to do? I want to give you a few resources that I think are really important. 3 books. One is called Crucial Conversations. Actually, I'm going to give you 4 books. Sorry. Crucial Conversations. It's all about how to frame, and it's different types of conversations too. So it's a great book. I probably have read mine so much that actually the pages are cracking from how much highlighter's on it. And it really does resonate. And the more you learn, the more you're going to pick up something different from the book. Words that change minds, like simplifying and softening concern, right? From objection to concern and going back and forth. Those words that help to get somebody to actually soften instead of being abrupt. We've witnessed so much polarization over the last couple of years. And I'm not saying it's even just political, right? It's everywhere. There's so much polarization. And so people can get really reactive. And social media hasn't helped a lot of that in a lot of circumstances. You can use some words that can really soften somebody, even soften somebody to the point of maybe actually getting them to pull down what it is that they just posted that they probably shouldn't have, right? And when words matter most, which a lot of times when you go through these circumstances, you'll find out there's something major going on in someone's life that you weren't aware of. And had you been aware of that, man, that probably would have completely changed the conversation, which makes it so important to have those do the homework first and make sure that you're really aware of those crucial conversations. There's a great course. One more book. Hang on a second, because it just left me. Oh, The Parent Care Solution. So you have a lot of people. We have a lot of people that are getting older and older and older, right? People are living longer. And we have a lot of people that don't talk to their parents about what their wishes are if they get ill, what their wishes are if they end up with finances. It impacts real estate in a giant way because it's a huge chunk of the business, and it's going to be for the next chunk of decades. The Parent Care Solution helps you to have those crucial conversations. And I'm going to tell you, it'll even help you to bridge the gap in some people's families. It'll help you to soften that equation so that they can actually talk together as human beings. And instead of 2 siblings not speaking to the other 2 siblings for the rest of their lives because mom liked you best, there'll be some opportunities for some serious healing, and you'll do more business because it always goes from value equals income, right? But you're adding value to somebody at a crucial point in their life. These books will really help you to be as empathetic as humanly possible and really help you to soften the edges, especially for us D personalities. So we just don't go in the room with, too much on our mind of what it is that we want to have done on the win, instead of making sure that it's a win-win. There's one more thing that I want you to really think about. There's a certification out there right now, and it's called Crisis Management Certification. Connie Myers is the writer of the course and the instructor of the course. We as a company have it for our people. We did it nationwide to provide an opportunity for our people, for them to participate. But I'm going to tell you right now, she worked for FEMA for more than a decade. So she's been in crisis, everything from fires, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, mass shootings, terrorism, and COVID, right? Man-made disasters and natural disasters. There will be something that happens in all of our lifetimes. There already has been, right? Did anybody expect COVID? Did anybody expect the aftermath of what happened and where people were going to be? This course will actually give you an opportunity to know exactly what you need for a preparation kit, no matter what the circumstances are, for you to educate your consumer. You can actually take it to the point that you can get a certification so that you could even teach it in your own community, which would make a huge difference on you being the solution, right? And the goal is always for us to be the solution. It's not just about disaster. I know I live in the Northeast, not too many hurricanes and tornadoes, lots of blizzards, but not too many hurricanes and tornadoes. But there still are natural disasters and man-made disasters, right? And it could be anything. Here, there was a gas explosion, right, that harmed tons of people in Massachusetts. What if you had prepared so many people so that they knew what to do? How much do you think they're going to remember you when they walked away and said, I actually saved my pets because of being smart enough to go to this class? Or that made the difference from me not throwing my money away and being able to hold on to a nest egg. All of these circumstances are things that you get to be the solution, and you get to help somebody. And the best part about it is that every single time that you do this in any type of conflict, you will grow in the process, not just the people that you're serving. And I think that really does make a difference. I'm going to just give you my contact information in case you're in the middle of something right now. If you text 85377 and just in the text, put in TAMI, that's my first name, and hit send, you'll get my mobile business card sent to your phone. Give me 24 to 48 hours to get back to you, but I promise I return all my phone calls. And in case there's something going on or you need something that's clarified, a lot of this information and bullet points is going to be sent out over the next couple of weeks, but I wanted you to write down the notes of the things that are pertinent to you. I really value the fact that you took the time. I've really enjoyed the times that I've been able to spend with this Elevate. I think that, if all of us elevate every single experience we're involved in, this is the experience economy. We'll have an incredible 2021 with some memories that we'll never, ever forget. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Tami.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tami.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tami.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Great job, Tam.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tami. It was amazing.
Oh,
You're always amazing.
I don't know about that. I lost that snowball fight pretty bad, let me tell you.
I can wear these rose-colored glasses today.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where would I find this crisis management certification? Is that something
It's
through?
in the chat.
It's in the chat.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And you can reach out to Connie Myers. I put
Reach
that
out
in.
to Connie Myers. She lives in Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Yeah. Reach out to Connie Myers, CONI, and she'll be able to direct you in that direction. I didn't even tell her I was going to mention it today, but I think I took the course. I think that, we should always put our money where our mouth is and don't recommend something unless you've taken it. I took the course, and it changed what it is that I have in my home and in my car and in my business. To be
That's fabulous. That also the code that you gave us that you put the Tami in. How did you get that code? That's fabulous.
We have mobile business cards where we work. So you just text 85377, punch in my name and you'll get my mobile business card sent to your phone. It's so that nobody has to touch anything right now, but also so that if you're ever without a business card, you can get one sent.
That's fabulous. Thank you.
Makes it simple. Thank you.
So 2 things and 4 books. I'll have fun with Audible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
so
worth
much, Tammy. Love hearing you. Thank you, Annette, for running the chat. It's always great seeing you ladies. I love my exit family. So love seeing you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. As you all know, I love Women's
Wonderful.
Council Realtors. It's a
Best ones I've been
Become
to
better.
so far.
thank you so much.